Alrighty, what is up, everybody? It is me, Duke Farley, back at it again here on Lost at Sea, and I am joined with four drafters for Ascendance Live Season 2. Really happy to have these four here to choose and kind of talk about the contestants here for Season 2. So without further ado, let me introduce everybody in order. We've predetermined the order of the draft, and the first person going up with the number 1 pick in this draft, we're going to be referring to him as Scotty. So Scott Link, just because we have two Scotts here. Scotty, how are you doing? It's been a while since we've spoken. What's been up?
I am good. Thank you so much for asking. Today is actually my first day off of crutches, so looking up. Just a little soccer contusion injury, but other than that, all good. I'm in DC, just living life, enjoying myself here. How are you, Duke? You didn't tell us.
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Nobody really ever asks me that back. I'm doing well. Really happy to be back at it podcasting again. It's been a while. And this is the first video podcast that I've ever done. So I'm really happy to, be joined by you guys for the first one. Scott.
I can speak on all of our behalves and say it's an honor to be here.
Appreciate it. Big task with the first pick, and then you don't pick for a while again. Do you have somebody in mind with that first pick, or are you kind of just still feeling everybody out? What's up?
Well, I'm not going to reveal any of my strategy outright, but there are a few names on the cast list that I know personally, and then there's a couple names that I've heard from watching not live Ascendance, so just weighing those options in my head to kind of make a final decision. To be honest, I haven't fully committed to my first pick yet, so I'll just be in the moment and decide then.
Okay, it sounds like it's alive, but
it's part of the theme. Part of the theme,
yes, of course. So second overall here, the second drafter we have is somebody who is familiar with winning. We have the 2-time winner, the Ascendance Live Season 1 winner, and Season 2 of the org. We have Edmund here joining us. Edmund, how are you? Good to see you as always.
Thank you. You don't need to blow my head up anymore, Duke. I'm good. I'm still in Nashville. I did move just to another part of Nashville, but I'm a city girl now. I was working for a little bit, but quit my job, so I'm back to being a house husband for the time being, and I'm just living my life.
Hell yeah. Do you think you have a little bit of an advantage over, the other 3 drafters having, actually played the live version and won?
Well, I think it's different because every game will be different. That's kind of what I talk about in terms of strategy overall, which I'll probably get into when we draft and such. I think my only advantage is the fact that I probably have met half of this cast in person. So I know how they actually act in person. I know the type of energy they exude, and how they're received by people.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Edmund, for joining us. So third, we've got the only person, coming back to draft again. We've got Scott. You came on real strong in the first draft, and then you kind of lost it there right at the end to Emily, of course. Are you back for a little bit? Are you back for a little redemption?
We'll see what happens. I mean, I've been just got in my head a little bit. The strategy's working. I don't know a lot of these people. I have seen some of them play Ascendance, the online version, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, happy to be here, and I have a little bit of strategy, but also kind of just going to go with the flow and see where my heart takes me. And yeah, I was really impressed by some of these people, so excited to chat about them.
Awesome. And then lastly, we have but not least, of course, we have Sam, the latest winner of the Org Series Season 10. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about this new crop of live players. I'm interested to see, like, because I'm picking last out of like the first little bit, I'm interested to see where everyone else's picks lie. And I'm just excited to talk about it all.
You have like the fun last pick in the first round, but then first pick in the second round, kind of two for pick there.
Yes.
Do you think it's good kind of see how everybody else picks, and then you have two selections back to back?
Yeah, honestly, I think if I was given my choice of like picking order, I like the double.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well, with that being said, I think it's time to draft some contestants here. Scott, I'm just gonna call you Scott Link. Honestly, I just feel weird saying Scotty. So, if it comes to it where I have to differentiate between Scotts, I'll just say your last name if it comes to that point. So Scott Link is first selection overall. So go ahead and get us started, man.
Okay. So I thought I would have more time. I'm still up in the air. I think that my strategy is to go with the person that I think, after seeing the cast on a whole, who I think just popped out at me is going to be making it far, rather than picking someone that I have interacted with and know. So I'm going to have to go with Jodalee.
Okay, Jodalee.
Wow.
I don't know if you...
Interesting reactions.
And I just think that, well, first of all, I've never interacted with Jodalee, and seeing the mask come off, I was like, oh, whoa. Because I've only seen pictures on Facebook whenever they are winning or getting voted off or what have you. So I recognize the name, I recognize the mask, and I think that coming in, unmasking, I think that they're ready to take on a new role, and I think that the role that they're taking on is winner.
Oh wow.
So that's my first choice, and that's why.
So Scott Earl, you obviously played your season of Ascendance with Jodalee.
I did. So I'm a little bitter that Jodalee snatched up. It's okay though.
Was Jodalee high on would you have drafted Jodalee with your first pick?
Look, I said Jodalee was going to be my first pick until I watched their video where they're like, I don't want to see Drew on the season. I don't want to see Keaton on the season. I'm like, oh, that's funny. So I still was hoping to get Jodalee as an early pick, but first pick, I was a definite yes to maybe a little less sure. But I played with Jodalee and I cut them at Final Four because they were such a formidable threat. They're just such a social player. They are sneakier than they're given credit for, and I'm a really big fan.
Yeah, Jodalee, I think that was a great point that you brought up with Jodalee saying they didn't want to see Drew or Keaton, right, in the game. So they're obviously in the game, as we know right now. Any other thoughts about Jodalee and Jodalee being number one overall?
I want to say I'm surprised, but I guess I'm not surprised. I just had false hope that maybe Jodalee would still be available by the time it came back to me, but I think that's an excellent first pick.
Yeah, I think Jodalee's a risky first pick because Jodalee definitely has a lot of personality, and sometimes that can help or hurt you in a live setting. I think we all love reality TV here. I just love Jodalee's niche reference of MasterChef because that used to be my shit. But they definitely have a way with their words, as you can see in their Meet Me video, which that can help you sometimes in sticky situations.
Can I also add, I'm not surprised Jodalee had the longest Meet Me video. It's very Jodalee.
My favorite part of the Meet Me video. Oh, sorry, Duke.
No, go ahead, Sam.
My favorite part of the Meet Me video was the difference between hero and villain is intention. Like, yeah.
And Jodalee, in the Ascendance 8 made it to 4th. You know, Ghost of the Past, he made it to 3rd. This is his, their first live game, so it'll be interesting to see without the mask too. That was very shocking to me when they took the mask off, but I was all there for it. But let's move on from Jolie to Edmund, your first selection of the draft.
So as I said, I feel like live game is all about energy. I'm just a very energetic, spiritual person. So the energy you feed off is how people are going to receive you. And one of the best energies I've ever been around was when I met this person. I met her in Vegas when I went with some season 1 alumni. So my first pick is going to be Erica.
Erica.
And I also choose Erica just because there's some people that come into a room and command a room by being loud. But she can command a room just by walking in it, and she can chill by herself. She doesn't feel the need to always make her presence known, because her presence is known just when she's there.
Any other takes on Erica before I talk about her?
I had drafted Erica on my Ascendance 9 draft. She went far. She's a great player, I think. She's very likable. I think it's an awesome pick.
She was very high on my list. I don't know her, but I just said we love a drinker, and I hope she does okay being sober.
Yeah, I just thought she was just very personable and just seemed like, you know, she could probably like do some of that strategic gameplay, but like not have a bigger threat level on her because of it, because she's so like down to earth. And I did like her energy a lot too.
Yep, I had Erica. I did like a little like overall, you know, ranking too, and I had Erica very high. Erica did really well in, you know, Ascendance 9. Something that I thought was going to be interesting is she mentions Chris as somebody that she wants to work with. I know that her and Chris were aligned in Ascendance 9 from the beginning. I think I don't know if he mentions her in his intro, but yeah, I think that's an excellent second overall pick. Erica was definitely very high on my board as well. But yeah, so we are moving along. We have the third overall pick, which is Scott Earl.
Okay, so I am a villain in Ascendance, apparently. I have to be a little cutthroat here, because I know when you play with someone, you kind of want to snatch them up. I'm sorry, Sam. You're right after me. I'm going to take Taisha. I don't know. Sam will have more to say, so maybe she wasn't that high on her list. But Taisha is someone who just has such a strong track record in games. I just don't see her going out early. So I don't know. I think in a game where being able to fly under the radar but still make moves is going to get you far, I think she can do just that. I think she just won an org. I follow some org pages, and I'm pretty sure I saw her as a winner of one. So I can't see her flopping. So even if she doesn't win, I think she'll get me points, and I think that's a solid reason to pick someone. So I'm gonna have to snatch her just in case Sam was going to. But I'm curious for your insights, and sorry. Yeah.
No, it's all good. Honestly, I think Taisha was one of those players that I wasn't really expecting to kind of trickle down to me. And yeah, she's just so personable, and like she just has a way of just making you feel good when you're talking to her, and making you feel like you fit into her game in a way that like you're mutually working together. When I played with her, she was loyal to a lot more people before loyal to me. I just wasn't part of like the main structure of the game. But you know, despite me knowing where her allegiances were, I still feel good about her. She'll just make you feel good. She's just good.
Edmund, Scott, Link, do you guys have anything on Taisha?
I don't know her, but I took notes, like one or few notes about everyone, and all I wrote was soft spoken, maybe nervous, question mark, and then I wrote definitely making at least halfway through the game.
Yeah, I actually had the pleasure of meeting Taisha. And she's just someone that you feel comfortable around. She's really easy to talk to, and I feel like you need that with how fast-paced this game is. You need to be able to have that relatability factor to click instantly, so that way people trust you. And I think that's something that she will be able to do.
Absolutely. Taisha was the highest rated player I had on my list. Really surprised she got all the way to third in this draft. She got, third in Ascendance 10. And I know Scott mentioned her winning a game. I believe she won iSurvivor recently. But yeah, all around great player. She was awesome in this past season of the online version, and super excited to see how she does in live. It's going to be interesting to watch her play the live format. I know this is her first live game. But with Taisha being snatched right before Sam got her 2 picks in, Sam, the floor is yours now for 2 picks. So go ahead and do what you want.
All right. Okay, so I hadn't made myself like an official list, but I kind of had somebody in mind, and they're still available, so I'm very excited. And so, yeah, my first pick is going to be Melissa. And I met Melissa through Ascend the Chaos, and we became allies in that like mess of a crazy random game. And then just kind of from there, I think she has what it takes, and I think she's just put so much work into things she's already good at, puzzles, and the like, that she's essentially like trained for this. And I think I think she's a strong contender to make it to the end. I think she may have some trouble with her threat level, but I think if she can pull out those wins when she needs them, maybe that will kind of make up for it, if that's the way things end up going. And yeah, I'm excited to see what she does.
Interesting that Scott drafts somebody from your season, and then you go ahead and draft somebody from Scott's season.
I didn't realize.
Honestly, I was playing the strategy. I was like, maybe she won't take Melissa, because I really wanted Melissa, but I knew she would take Taisha. Well, I thought you would take Taisha, so I was getting greedy. Melissa is just a lovely person. Exudes such great energy. I think because she got out in Ascendance by like some secret connection she didn't know about, I wonder if she'll be a bit vigilant about all these like pre-game connections. But she is just like Sam said, she's just a great person who I think has a lot of strengths and also exudes very positive energy out in the world. And I think other people will vibe off of that. And she's definitely one to look out for.
Was that prior connection in the game, was that you that she was mentioning in that in her intro?
If it was that one, it's probably me and Brian in that game, because we were going after Brian, but Brian was my best Ordu friend, and
Yeah, I wrote that down. I was like, I thought it was like, was that Scott Earl that she was talking about? But yeah, Scott, Link, anything on Melissa? Was she high on your board?
She was, well, I didn't know that you guys all had so many connections to all these people. She's actually the number 1 on my board. So that was who I wanted the most, actually. And it was specifically because I also work in property management, and I know that it's a position that you just have to be on all the time. Things are always going to be coming at you, and you have to have a sense of coolness. And I think that that's something that's going to be extremely useful in a game, especially live. Because if you're on an org, your internet might disconnect or something. You have a moment to collect yourself. But in a live game, you have to be ready to go at a moment's notice. And I think that, especially being a little bit older and in the position that the occupation that she has and property management, etc., I just think that she's going to be more equipped for this than people are going to give her credit for, and that people will expect, I think. So she was really number one on my list to pick, but I don't know. I thought she'd be making it back to my second pick, but I was wrong. It's fine.
She was number one on your like board overall, but you picked somebody else.
Yeah, because I just knew that Jodalie wouldn't be back, but I thought maybe Melissa would.
Interesting strategy. Edmund, anything on Melissa before we move into Sam's next selection?
I agree with everything y'all have said about Melissa. I didn't even expect to have a chance to pick Melissa. I thought Melissa was going to be one of the first few picks, so I didn't even think about picking her. No shade, I was just thinking about the draft. But I just have to say, I didn't watch every person's home video, but I did watch Melissa's, and her little yoga segment was everything. So yeah.
I didn't watch any of those home videos. I just watched the intros, but I probably should check those out. Sam, so you have the floor again, your second selection.
All right. I'll say my first pick was definitely like a head and heart pick, but like heart like mostly, but also she just ticks all the other boxes anyways. This pick is more of like a gut pick. Like this person I don't know, but just very captivated by their video because I just saw a lot of myself in this person. So for my second pick, I'm gonna pick Eric. I don't know Eric at all. Couple of reasons why I want to go with Eric. 16 years of org experience with a couple of wins, no live game experience. But, you know, if you've been playing for that long, you've learned a thing or two. And just what I really liked about Eric also was, what did I write down? Yeah, basically just he just seems really adaptable. So not really coming in with like a set plan, but more so just feeling people out and just kind of going in that way. And I think you're not restricting yourself. You're not putting yourself in a box for that. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's a risky pick in that sense, just because I don't know him very well, but I got a good feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I also had Eric rated really highly on my board. I recently played an org with Eric, and he was really sociable, really good at competitions. I know that it's different, org to live game with that kind of stuff, but super personable. I thought the only thing he doesn't have going for him, obviously, like Sam, you mentioned, was, the built up connections that some of these people have. But I think like if he can get past the first couple rounds not having those, I think he should be fine. And, another thing that I enjoyed him saying was wants to start as a hero and as a villain and be a little bit more manipulative at the end. I think that's a great thing to try to do. But yeah, does anybody else have anything else to talk about, Eric with?
I've never played a game with Eric. I haven't met him. I have talked to him a few times. But based off his video, I agree with Sam in the fact that I think he can be very adaptable because he does have a lot of experience with games. I think he knows if he needs to switch up and maybe cut someone loose or try something different, he's willing to change his loyalties possibly in order to get himself ahead. Because I feel like some people on this cast might be loyal to a fault to where it leads up to their demise. But I think he has the awareness to realize when he needs to jump ship.
And one other thing I will say, it was just in a different part of my notes because it wasn't in the Meet Me video, but Eric said that he's a Gryffindor with a few Slytherin qualities. And like every single time in my life that I've sorted myself, I'm a Gryffindor, except for the 1 or 2 times that I happen to be a Slytherin. So I was just like, yes. And shout out to Kiwi. We need a loved one visit from Kiwi, please. Very cute cat.
Lost my video there. Scott, did you have something to say?
Not really. But kind of going off of what you all have said, I think that the main thing in almost any game that you play is pace. And it sounds like, without saying, I know how to pace myself. I think that that's what his strongest asset seems to be. I also wrote seems fit. And I think that that's something that you don't necessarily think about whenever you're thinking about online reality games. Obviously, you don't really have to be fit. But in a live game, I think that it's something that might be able to come into play a little bit more. I don't know if he is or not, but I wrote seems fit. That's on my notes.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, the game that I recently played with Eric, he was very, I guess, fit in one of the endurance competitions. Don't really know how it's going to translate. There's probably going to be some physical competitions that he'll probably excel at. Scott, do you have anything that you want to say about Eric? I think you're up next, if not.
I guess the thing that struck me with Eric was he was talking about just needing to start the first few rounds. I think a lot of people talked about that. I will say, I think this is less like Ascendance previous players heavy. I think there's like less than half the cast house. So I'm going to be curious to see what the connections are like. And it seems like there almost might be a bit more like weird blood with some of the players because of like ghosts from the past, having had so many players here. So I think there's more wiggle room for people this time around. Who might not have as many connections. And I think he could be good at making some early connections. And I can
Whenever you're ready.
Pick. Yeah, I'm staring at one person who I think I want my team, but they might go out early, and I don't know. Let me just go to Okay, I'll do it then. Okay, I'm just gonna do it. It's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna pick someone who I think reminds me of me, but I feel like there's a chance it could be like an early boot being a target. I'm going to pick Drew. I think there are some people who might want Drew out in this cast, so that's why I have pause. I think they can make him an early target early on, but I think he's a super social, like positive, loving person, and people could also gravitate to that. I also think there's a hidden possible gem, and I think it's Kennedy, who knows Keaton and Drew, and maybe could like be a bridge with them. I just think he's a big player. I do wonder if some of his connections from previous games might make him a bit like soft and not want to cut friends when he needs to. I don't know him well enough to know how cutthroat he is, but I also just feel like in an in-person environment, it's a little bit harder to be as cutthroat sometimes because you're right there and you have to do it in front of their face. But I just, yeah, he has a good track record with Ascendance. I think he has a lot of qualities of a great player. And when I saw him playing Ascendance 9, I was like, oh, this is how I played the game, and I really respected it. I just hope his loyalty to a fault doesn't bite him, and I hope he isn't loyal to a fault if he needs to cut someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Drew, I thought was one of the people that had a lot of people talking about him in the intros. I think a lot of people mentioned Drew. Some people mentioned not wanting to see Drew, which is not great. But like you said, there's that mutual connection with Kennedy. And Drew has, never been voted out of the game online. So that's something. He also has a lot of live game experience, like he mentioned, compared to some of the people that have never played a live game. So I feel like that's something that probably is going in the right direction for Drew. And super social player, of course, very good at competitions too. But yeah, another connection that I don't know if it was mentioned in the intro videos was, Taisha just won Drew's game of iSurvivor that he's on production with. So I think that might be something that's going in his favor as well. But Sam, Scott, or Edmund, anything on Drew? Do you guys like the pick?
Yeah, I think you mentioning Taisha kind of made me think of, so he wants to find somebody to play with, to be that ride or die, to just no filter, communicate everything, and kind of play the game that way. And I was going to say, if he can find that person, then I think, yeah, he has like a chance to maybe insulate himself a bit and get more information at your disposal, the better, you know? So I think there's like a path for him there, but specifically with Taisha, if they do have that connection already, she is that type of player where she will find her number one and ride with that person. And so who knows, maybe that's like a connection that we'll see like pay off in the game for the both of them. And I think Drew had also said he's a big fan of escape rooms. And I think, I mean, I've only done a handful, so I don't know for sure, but I feel like doing those types of things in person, like hands-on, obviously it's a lot different than doing like org comps over the computer. So that type of experience might give him a bit of an edge in comps as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna sound like a broken record with this, but I have met Drew before. So I have seen him in person. Because I think the thing about orgs versus a live game, I feel like everyone gets a little more nervous. You don't know how you're gonna be actually playing the real thing in real life. So seeing him, meeting him versus what I've heard about him, he was a great guy. I think Drew's advantage is, like y'all said, he has Ascendance experience. He has live game experience. And he thoroughly followed season 1. So he knows what to expect going into this game, and I think he's going to know how to maneuver whatever he needs to avoid or work with or whatever.
I was keeping notes about everyone on an Excel, and I was just like tabbing once I had finished a thought, and I wrote, I didn't tab, I just wrote reserved Pokemon. Like I meant to put like reserved and then Pokemon, so I just have reserved Pokemon for my notes for him, which I thought was funny. But I wrote that I think that I see him going far in the game. I would say, again, don't know about any of the connections and such, but he just seems like he is coming in wanting to play really hard and wanting to do stuff. And I think that in a live game, especially, people are going, with cameras there, people are going to want to gravitate towards someone that's going to want to do stuff in the game because they want to, you know, put on a good show for the viewers. So I think that he is someone that's going to go far.
Yeah, and like I said, he has gone far in both of the times he was online. I think he got rocked out in his proper season, and he made it to the end but lost in the mini, kind of long form mini that we ran, Ghost of the Past. So excited to see how Drew does in the live game format. It's going to be fun to watch. He always puts on a show, whichever game he plays in, of course. But we have Edmund up next. Edmund, the floor is yours.
I'm kind of torn between a few. But I think I'm going to snatch up Chris. And the reason why is I have met Chris before. And Chris, just like I said, has before with other people, he has an amazing energy. You can tell his intentions are very pure and genuine with how he speaks. I don't really get the vibes that he's speaking to you for a purpose of his own. You know what I mean? It's because he's actually in tune with wanting to get to know you, wanting to understand you. And I had a great time with Chris when I met him. Plus he's a Reiki shaman. Like, I'm all about watching my ASMR Reiki videos on YouTube, okay? And I just love Chris. He's honestly one of the most amazing people I've ever met. But I will say, my only concern is how I said earlier, I feel like Chris may be loyal to a fault. So I think his challenge is going to be the adaptability of Ascendance, which is the key part in, I think, any winner's gameplay is the adaptability.
Yeah, I really liked Chris in his season of he was on season 9. Like I mentioned earlier with Erica, they worked together really closely. Chris, I think his trouble in that game was he kind of didn't keep up with the kind of pace that Ascendance has. So he kind of fell a little bit behind socially, and like he mentioned in his video, he kind of got powered out, which was tough to watch. But I think now, having seen like the format, I think he kind of gets it, and he'll probably do well. I actually had in my notes his like personality and like his interest reminded me of Edmund. And yeah, that's basically all that I had with Chris. I had him rated highly. I think he'll do well. Do any of you guys have anything that you want to say about Chris before we move on to the next selection?
I'll just say that I think it was in either the casting or like the home video. He said his D&D alignment was chaotic good. And that's just like the perfect alignment, in my opinion, to have coming into these games. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, I followed Chris closely on his season because I also drafted him, and then he got out early-ish. But I guess the whole idea of like you're not being active enough in an org, it's not as present in an LRG because you're there, so you can't be like busy with work. So I think that was his downfall, and otherwise he could have been a big contender. So now I'm like really will be looking for him in this game to go far.
Are we talking about Hot Girl Chris or Christopher?
That's a
I
good
hope Christopher.
Sorry.
Otherwise, I'm
Yeah.
excuse myself in the last 10 minutes.
It's just like, I'd love to chime in, but I'm not sure who. But the note that I have for Christopher is that I think that a lot of the videos, I don't know if it was nerves, but a lot of people seemed a little bit reserved, and he especially seemed. It felt like there was more personality that wanted to pop out, but it felt very reserved. And I think that if he's able to kind of utilize that going into this, I think that he's someone that could kind of sneak past and get farther than some people probably should let him.
Yeah, one more thing about Chris I want to say is he's a Reiki shaman, so he's all about the energy. And I know that sometimes when you're around so much energy, it can overwhelm you. So I just hope that he's able to work through that because I want to see Chris do well. And Chris definitely has a lot more personality to offer. I will tell you that.
Okay. On that note, Scott E, we have, the wraparound here for you. You got two.
I know you called him Scott E instead of Scotty.
Oh, wait.
Confusing.
I think Scott L.
It's me next.
Scotty L. Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
Scotty.
My bad.
Yeah.
Scotty's
That's
not
my
as
bad.
helpful as
I
you
should have
thought.
pronounced it
Oof.
better. Yeah, for sure. Scott Link, you are up, and you got the wraparound, brother.
Okay, I'm gonna go with, I don't know, the person that like stuck out to me. I think it's just because this person reminds me of someone that I know in real life. That's kind of, I don't know. She just reminds me of someone that I know. So I'm gonna go with Zoe. And I don't know. There's just, because I'm picturing my friend playing and attributing her attributes to this person, so I might be completely off. But my friend is very competitive, very, very dry humor, and that's kind of what I got from Zoe. I almost said Raylene because that's what I put in my notes. But she just seems very dry, but it delivers well. So I think that if anything, if people don't get it right at first, I could see her maybe going early. But if she can kind of get her feet moving, I think that she would be really dangerous in the game. So I'm gonna pick Zoe.
Yeah, love the pick. I think another thing that I want to just talk about Zoe with obviously no live game experience. She does mention working with Keaton really well. So there's that. She seems super low key and kind of like chill to me, like, kind of what Scott was saying. I think people will like that a lot with a lot of, there's a lot of big personalities. So kind of having a couple people that are more low key, maybe playing from behind the scenes will suit her well. But that's all I have on Zoe. So does anybody else have anything regarding Zoe?
I would just say, yeah, they were also one of my like upcoming picks if she was still on the table. I just feel like they have like a great energy to them, and just, I think that'll go far sometimes in it to bring balance to this big old group. So yeah, I could see her doing a deep run as well. I guess I'm saying that for everyone, so it doesn't mean anything anymore, but it's fine.
I do agree with everything like that's been said about Zoe. I think one place where like she may have some like may struggle. So like when asked, is there anyone you hope that is not playing season 2? She said she can be perceived as bitchy sometimes, so that she hopes like people who maybe perceived her that way in the past aren't there and she has a fresh slate. And I loved her energy, and I just hope that it doesn't like get overpowered by like other people, and then like she, you know, may fade into the background or become a number for people but not anybody's priority. But that being said, like, you know, I do think she has what it takes to, if she is able to make those bonds and kind of get in there, that there's definitely like I see a lot of potential.
Yeah, with Zoe, back to what Sam said about being perceived as bitchy, I feel like I deal with the same thing sometimes, but I just like to call it real. I think that's always our excuse. But yeah, I think it more so what Scott Link said was, it was more so the dry humor. Sometimes that doesn't translate through camera right away, because I just kind of felt like maybe she was nervous or whatever, but I just think that's kind of how she is. My only concern for her is that the one person she did call out that she wished was there was Keaton, and if people know about that connection, that might bite at them in the ass. But you saw what me and Peyton did, so maybe they will take it all the way and play everybody. So
Absolutely, you guys killed it. Final 2 of season 1 of Live. Scott Link, you are up again.
This one's so tough because it's going to be ages before I get to pick again. But I'm between 2 people. And I know that I have to pick one because I'm not going to get the other one. But I'm going to have to go with someone that I know and have briefly played in a game with before, and that's going to be Thomas. And I hate to say it just because I know him, but I do think that he could play well. I know that a lot of the times that he's played in orgs, he's been in school, and he was in law school and still managed to find the time to play in games, that's insane to me. So I think that he'll, if nothing, be super committed and want to do really well. So I mean, he went through law school, so he's definitely driven, and I think that he'll bring that to the game.
yeah, with Thomas, I have met Thomas before. And the thing about Thomas is he has great intentions, which I think can take you very far in this game. If people feel like your intentions are received that way. Thomas was going to be my next pick, so thanks, Scott. But yeah, the thing about Thomas that I think he really has the advantage of, sure, he doesn't have the Ascendance experience, but he's hosted live games, so he's been on the production side to be able to see a full rounded game play out and how fast things can move and change, which I think can help him, especially in a live setting. And he's a fucking lawyer. Like, lawyers use their words all the time to get their clients out of sticky situations, and I'm sure he can do the same for himself. So I have really high hopes for Thomas, and I'm excited to see him finally play Ascendance.
Funny enough, Thomas is going to be my next pick as well. So if Drew flops, that's who I was between. I'm going to be mad at Drew if Thomas does a lot better than him. I just feel like he's also not only a lawyer, but like also like a children's book writer and like competitive volleyball player. He's just a lot of diverse experiences that I think help him probably have different perspectives and to be able to relate to different people. Also, I watched Marriage Story, so if he's like anything like that, you need to comfort people, but you also need to be cutthroat towards someone else. I feel like it's a good career for a Survivor player.
Absolutely. Another thing that I think was great that Thomas said was he is a very fluid player. I think that's great trait to have in this particular format, and I think he'll do just fine. I think, you know, he was mentioned as being almost everybody's next pick, so I think perfect timing on that one, Scott, to take him there. But the next selection, I believe, belongs to Edmund.
Okay, let Sam go piss and let me get another drink and let's continue.
I also could use a refill, but
Yeah.
you need like a
Thank
commercial
you.
break, Duke, 'cause I don't think,
Go do whatever you guys got to do. I will take it from here. I will.
I figured you
Keep-
could like cut and cut it out, or keep the masses
probably could-
entertained.
Yeah, absolutely.
Either way, I gotta pee.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just Scott and I. Scott, do you have to leave to get
No,
something going?
I'll just walk. I'll walk with you. I won't leave you off. But I do need to get another drink too. So
Absolutely. What are you drinking tonight, Scott?
Michelob Ultra. You know, it's.
I've never had that.
Oh, what?
Is it delicious?
It's like a low-cal light beer.
Skinny.
It's my favorite. It's like it's known for being mom's drink.
A mom's drink.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The beer
I
of
did
mom.
start drinking Mick Ultra because of my grandma. I will say that.
Yeah. So hopefully by season 3 we'll be sponsored.
Yeah.
Who do we have
Sure.
to reach out to?
Sure,
Wasn't, like,
somebody. We know
Skittles,
somebody.
sponsor of Ascendance.
Michelob Ultra, Ascendance 3.
Love it.
And the injuries, you're coming back from the injury. It's getting a lot better. You said you just got off of crutches.
Yeah. Did you see how well I walked?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I
Real
was doing-
fluid.
I did it all day.
Nice job, brother.
Yeah.
Edmund, it seems like you know almost everybody on this cast, or you've met everybody.
Good thing I
Who
didn't
have
play
you
this
not met?
season.
I was going to ask, do you
Hmm.
think that you would have done as well on this season with how many people you knew?
So this is what I kind of said going into this. I'm the type of player where I want to prove myself based on my own gameplay. I want to go into a game and I want to create organic connections, which is hard in a community like this. So I wouldn't, even with season 1, I only knew a few people, but I didn't want to have to rely on those connections to get me to the end, although I kind of had to.
I was going to say, is that why you went to the end with Peyton?
The hard-hitting question.
That was the hand I was dealt, okay? So I took it. But I don't really want to keep talking about season 1, but I was loyal to my duckies. I was loyal to the new people I met. You know what I mean? So I'll leave it at that. Basically, I would rather see a player come into a game, create organic connections, and prove themselves that way than to say I got to the end because I guilted my friends into keeping me.
Absolutely. Let's just jump right back into the swing of things. We took a little break here. That was a little back behind the scenes from what happens at a draft. You get sponsored by Michelob Ultra. You talk about injuries and stuff. And the next, Edmund, I believe you are up next. I think we're at the halfway point here.
Ooh.
So a lot of great contestants here left. So go ahead and do what you got to do.
Again, I'm stuck between a few. I know some of these girls are going to be mad if I don't pick them, but I have my reasonings for picking certain people. Again, this is someone I've met. I'm going to choose Wesley. I think Wesley has, again, the experience of live games, hosting his own live game. He's just a sweet person. He took a step away from all of this for a while, just for himself. And I think breaks like that are needed. And when you take that break, you come back 10 times stronger. So I have really high hopes for Wesley and to see what he does with his return.
Yes, Wesley was somebody that I was super interested to see playing the season. Obviously has hosted, like Edmund said, has played a live game before. Was thinking about being on production of this season, but talks happened and he ended up playing one way or the other. I think an interesting little thing that might be happening is Keaton has played his game that he hosts. I don't know if he was there when Keaton played, but I think he was. So I'm interested to see that kind of dynamic. And I'm interested to see if other people are aware of who Wesley is and how they take him being in the game. Could go one of two ways, obviously, but I thought he seemed like he could do really well in this in the season. Anybody else on Wesley?
Really quick before the other three go, but that's what I just want to say to speak on Wesley's character, is that with the success of his own live game, he wanted to help out our community, our game Ascendance, just to help. And he cared so much about it that he decided, hey, I'll put my hat in the ring and I'm just going to try it and see how I do. And I don't know, I just think that speaks on how great of a person he is.
Wesley was actually the other person that I was between, so I'm happy that he immediately left. I know that I made the right decision, I guess, right? But I think that he kept mentioning that he didn't want to be recognized, but I only see that as helping him in this circumstance, because a lot of the contestants have been mentioning that they've never played a live game, and I think that that is something that they would immediately gravitate toward if they do recognize him as someone that has hosted a different live game, because he's going to know the ins and outs. He's going to be thinking like, oh, what could be coming up? I think that he's going to be a few steps ahead of the production aspect of it. So I think that he's someone that would be super useful to play with. And I think that people will gravitate toward that. So I think it'll help him if he is recognized. And if he isn't, it'll be cool to watch him play as a new fresh face to the game of Ascendance.
Yeah, I've watched the first 3 seasons of Penthouse, and like I can see why he would think, oh, people know me, they'll be threatened. But I think he just naturally exudes such a kind spirit, even on that show. I'm like, oh, I would want to work with him if I played a game with him. I think he'll probably feel like he has something to prove in a way because he hasn't played in a little while. And I know if I go on a break, I want to be like, all right, I still got it. Let me go out hard and play. I remember him saying like, he doesn't like players who are just like, oh, what do you want to do? So I could see him really taking charge, because I think he just loves the game too much to not. I think he'd probably rather go home as a big character than like make it to the end and get 0 votes. Strikes me as that kind of person. So I think that could be good in this game. I do see a lot of big personalities who I could see a power struggle. So I think it could go either way, right? If he's not on the right side of it, it could be detrimental. So that's why I didn't pick him right away. But I think he's a great pick because he was also someone I was considering.
Sam, do you have any thoughts on Wesley? Was he somebody that you were going to pick?
Definitely not like somebody. I feel like at this point in the draft, yes. Earlier, I didn't pick him earlier, but I think he did kind of share being like having had like not fun experiences in the past playing or like whatever that was, and that like he just wants this to be like a fresh start and just to kind of just have good or fun memories of like playing a game. And I feel like if there are people who are here who are new, who haven't played before, he could be that like source of comfort, even like if he has that nervous energy, somebody else may have the same and kind of bond over that. Or, like you guys were saying, just being that person who kind of like knows how it works in a sense, in a broader sense, in different format, of course, but, that could also kind of be a source of comfort. And he just seems like really accomplished person, like for his age. Like he's written some books. He's just kind of seems to have a lot of like life experience too that would lend itself to maybe translating well to the game overall. So I think wouldn't have been like I kind of hoped he was available for me to pick next. I'll say that.
Absolutely. And you're not next still, so you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer. And we have Scott up next. So Scott, whenever you are ready.
Yeah, I'm between 3 people, but there's like only 5 left or whatever. So that's the captain cast. I'm gonna just try to keep a diverse team of personalities. And I feel like that's why I should go with Carson. He's a bit younger. He's super bubbly. I'm on the car hype train. I just, he has like a silliness to him. it's just someone who I'm like, I can't see him being the early boot. And I feel like he could be someone people take under their wing. And I like that he's been taken under the wing before, but knew when he was being used and cut that person. So I think he shows that like he has a perceptiveness to how he's being perceived in the game. And I think that's really important. And that's where he was someone else who mentioned he knew he could be an early boot, but I just don't think there's going to be like this one big group of connections that says you're the outsider and we're going to get you out. So I think he could actually be someone that melds really well with a lot of different personalities and could be really underestimated. So yeah, I think just to keep my team with some different types of personalities, I think he'll be a good fit on there. Also, I burned pasta too, Carson. It's okay. It's hard to cook.
I really was taking a liking to Carson's intro video. There was a lot of fun things that he said that I wrote them down. You already mentioned one, Scott, all aboard the car hype train, choo choo, totes magoats, litty titty. It's stuff like that you just laugh at, you know? It's fun.
Speaking of laugh, his laugh kind of reminds me of Jodely, so I would just love a Carson Jodely alliance where they just like laugh the entire time, and it would bring a lot of joy to the show.
That could be dangerous. Any other some things that I wrote down about Carson also? 19, I think he is one of the youngest contestants so far in Ascendance Live, which is going to be interesting to see. And I think he said that he helped out hosting a Survivor game at his college. So that's another thing that he mentioned as something that he had in his pocket. And being a tour guide, you know, you got to use your social skills to tell people where to go and all that good stuff. Do we have any other thoughts on Carson? Is anybody else on the car hype train?
I am all aboard the car hype train. Absolutely. One thing that I thought was really interesting about Carson was like a lot of people in answering the hero or villain question say, I'm usually perceived one way, but I like to play another, or, you know, there's kind of like these stipulations in it. But Carson wants to come in and play as a hero, and he kind of has the track record to back it up. He said in his last org that he won Hero of the Season. So, you know, I don't know that we'll see the villain side or the cutthroat side, but he does seem still game-minded enough to be able to navigate that and then not make anyone mad at the end. So, you know, if he finds himself like later in the game, you know, he may not have to worry. He may just like inherently be good at jury management, whether that's proactively or not. And so I think, yeah, I'm excited to see what Carson brings. And yeah, you guys already said the rest of it. So
absolutely. Do you got Scott or Edmund? Are you guys aboard the choo choo car train? I butchered that so bad.
I don't think that I will ever say that aloud. But I do, Carson and I think we follow each other on Instagram, and I was kind of surprised to find out that he was 19. I definitely didn't know that about him. And I think often in games, there's players and there's characters, and watching his video, he very much came across as a character to me. And so it was nice to hear him talk about other times that he's played the games and showing that he has some strategic chops and he isn't afraid to cut a friend, and having the understanding and awareness to realize that that person was kind of using him. So I think that was something that was exciting to me, watching a character be a player. So I think that I have high hopes for what he'll do in this game. I kind of see him almost bookending. Like I either see him going kind of early or going pretty deep. I don't really see him as in the middle of the road. I kind of see him one or the other. And watch, he'll probably get like 8th, like right smack in the middle.
My thoughts about Carson initially, I've never met him, but I've heard about him. He follows me on Instagram as well. And I was like, is he just really this bubbly and nice and inviting, or is it just kind of you're doing your meet me video, you know what I mean? But then I feel like I watched he was one of the home videos I watched. I think I even watched his casting tape, and it just kind of, the energy seemed what's the word, consistent. And I was aboard the car choo-choo train. So I'm excited to see how he does. Just because he's young, I don't think that really means you can't play well. I do think confidence and emotional intelligence comes more as you get older, but I feel like he's sound enough to realize and be aware of things going on in the game. It's just about what he does with that awareness. And I'm excited to see if his energy does change with the stress and the no time to really do anything. I know my energy changed. I was a fucking bitch at the end because I wasn't eating. So as long as they're getting fed, hopefully he will be nice car all the way through.
Absolutely. We definitely want to see nice car. We don't want to see mad car. But with that being said, we are arriving here at Sam's, I think, last wraparound selections. So, Sam, whenever you're ready, you have 2 back-to-back picks here.
All right. I have to figure out what I'm doing.
A lot of good choices left.
I know. One thing about this cast is that, like, it doesn't feel like there are any layups. Like, everybody's got something going for them, which I think is gonna like lead to an exciting season. So like, yay! But when you're drafting, it's like, ugh. Okay. I am going to pick. I'm going to pick Jake for my next pick. Jake seems like somebody who lives and breathes games. He has. Let me go to my notes here for a quick second, because there was just so much. But okay, so the live game experience, Mayhem Manor twice, surviving Reelfoot, survival challenge. Anyways, the list goes on and on and on. Beyond that, hosting his own Backyard Survivors and Big Brother game as a college project. I hope that can translate to being really good in the game. He said he does want to be like he's a villain in his mind, but he ends up coming out a hero. So I thought that was interesting too, because usually it's always the other way around. What else did I want to say about Jake? Just at the end when he said, like, why should we root for you? Just how he's like he likes to think one step ahead, does not always go with the house, will stand up for his allies, not afraid to make moves. And I think all of those things are just like the right ingredients, like for a good player, where to kind of like navigate your way through a crazy game like this.
I agree. I'm actually surprised that Jake fell all the way till right now. I had him one of my higher rated contestants, and I think I did because of all the experience that you mentioned, Sam. It seems like he's played so many live games. He's hosted seasons on seasons of live games, and like you said, he just seems like a gamer to me. I think that I can't see him being an easy out, even though like he doesn't have as many connections as some people. I think if he can like find a way to get through the opening rounds and kind of integrate himself into this cast, I think he seems like one of the more strategic players in the cast, and I think he can find a way to go far. So I was surprised he didn't get drafted earlier. But does anybody else have anything to say about Jake? No.
Yeah, I was just waiting for someone else, but I agree with y'all. I think Jake definitely has the resume. And also, I don't know how well he did in Mayhem Manor, but just the simple fact that you're in a house with 40 plus people, I don't think being in a house with 18 people is going to be something that intimidates him, especially with his live game experience. So I am excited. I just hope people don't really peg him as a strategic threat. I think my only concern is that if he is the type to go against the house, I hope he has the awareness to know when to do that in order to cause a power shift or whatnot. Because if you just speak up just for the hell of it, that can sometimes bite you in the ass.
Yeah, I was at Survival Challenge like IRL last year, and so I got to see a little bit of him play, and I think he made a pretty deep run. He seems like someone who people gravitate towards. He reminded me a bit of Drew in some ways, of like the loyalty possibly and like the serious gamer. So I didn't pick him for that reason, but I was on the fence, and I think he's a great get at this point in the draft.
Mr. Link.
I think that from my experience playing Ascendance, I came in with knowledge of other games that I had played, and I am interested in seeing, with so much experience in other games, how that attributes his experiences, how that's going to attribute to what happens in Ascendance, because I don't know if he's played this or if he has a lot of familiarity with it. But it's a different beast. So it'll be interesting because he obviously has the most experience and a lot of probably preconceived notions about what this is going to be like. But my experience from Ascendance is it's very, very different. So that's something that made me a little bit nervous about picking him. But I do think that I could see him wanting to keep things interesting. And if he finds the right people to work with, I could see him doing well.
Absolutely. Play the game before the game plays you. Let's see if he can do that. But Sam, your next pick, the second pick of this wraparound, you are up next.
All right. This one, there's two people that I'm debating between. Both just equate chaos. They live and breathe and thrive in chaos. But I think I'm going to try to go maybe a little bit more strategically, and I'm going to pick Kennedy, the Comp Beast. I hosted Kennedy in a mini one. This is the first time I actually, I've heard of Kennedy, but hadn't met her before. And just watching what her in comps, she's just so good. And so I think as a player, I think she's very capable, but also, that chaos kind of gets you in trouble and gets a target on you. But the other side of that, I've seen her win when she needed to and kind of make it through. So whether or not that's enough to kind of carry her all the way through to the end, I'm not sure that she can, mitigate that target. She kind of just naturally has. But I think as a competitor, she's still going to bring it. And Kennedy for my last pick.
Yes, that is going to be your last pick because you are last, so you will get. We know how that works. Kennedy was interesting. Go ahead, Sam.
So one other thing I thought of, also the connections going into the house and people who kind of named each other and who they would hope to see or play with. I think that will provide at least some protection in numbers depending how the teams shape out. That can kind of have a bit of a buffer there too. That was my last thing.
Yeah, she mentioned, wanting to see Keaton and Drew, people that she would want to see in the game. Some things that Kennedy said that I thought might be not great was she said that she speaks her mind and that kind of tends to piss people off. Self-proclaimed messy and chaotic, not always bad, right? She's aware of it at least, not always bad, but could be very bad. She thinks that people will underestimate her, which I think is a good quality to have, people underestimating you in a game early on, but you got to turn it on at the right time, of course. Really interested to see how Kennedy's going to do. I think she has the potential to do very well. I was unaware of the comp beast that she is, so I think that's just an added plus. But any other thoughts on Kennedy going into this season?
I think that she mentioned video games, and that's basically her whole life is behind the screen. And so I think that it'll be interesting to see Steph. I once said to someone that I met from an orchid, it's so weird to see like everyone's body. And so it'll be interesting to watch her be able to interact with people in a setting that she's so familiar with, playing video games and playing games so much in her life. But to do it in real life, I think that it'll be an interesting step into maybe a little bit of an uncomfortable zone. But I also think in living in chaos and having an awareness of that, I think if she gets in a bad spot, it'll be entertainment to see what she does to, because some people are just like, all right, like I'm going to try to talk to this one person. I don't think that that's her get out of jail situation. I think sparks will ignite if she's in a bad spot, and I'd be interested to see how she maneuvers with that.
Edmund, do you have any thoughts on Kennedy, how she might fare in this setting?
I do not know Kennedy very well. I have played one game with her, and I am a victim of her lying to my face for no reason. No shade, I'm just speaking facts. But my only worry is that I hope she doesn't become so enwrapped in something that she can't get herself out of. I agree with Scott. I think if her back is against the wall, she's either going to triumph or crumble based on how she reacts. Because I think a chaotic kind of rebuttal can get you one of those two things. So we'll see. She's also one of the youngest. I think her and Carson are the youngest, correct? Both 19.
I think so.
Yeah. So, and like Scott said, she said she lives her life behind a computer screen playing video games all the time. So it'll be interesting to see her in sort of a social setting where you're forced to kind of immediately put yourself out there.
Yeah, I think like Sam said, there's no layups in this cast. So whenever someone said they're like messy and chaotic, I'm like, okay, like everyone seems so strong. So this is the only thing that might give me pause. I feel like I'm going to root for her so hard because she seems like she's going to be a riot to watch. But when she was like, I'll tell someone to their face if they're wrong, I'm like, wrong because they're objectively wrong because they're wrong in your eyes, which might not be a good thing because they might think they're right. Or so it's like people who are leaning into confrontation, I haven't put them on my draft team yet just because there's not a lot of reasons to not pick someone in this cast. So I feel like people who have self-described as messy are the ones who are kind of deciding now between.
And that's a perfect segue into your next selection, Scott. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and choose.
I'm sorry, I'm missing one more thing because we talked about her being young. I also want to say Carson mentioned that if he wins, he will bring newbie representation to the winner circle and young representation to the winner circle. I'm like, how old is Edmund?
I didn't know 23 was the new fucking 50.
Go to the retirement home. Okay, anyway, I'm going to pick someone who I have done some online game nights with. I really enjoy them. I think I didn't pick them yet because I'm not sure how they're going to get on with this group. I'm going to pick Paul. Paul is someone who has such a passion for games, and I think it will be obvious. I think he has a great head on his shoulders. He knows these games. He has some LRG experience. There's a lot of like chaotic young energy in this group, so I'm not sure how he's going to mix in with that big part. So there's a chance he could just be like, "Oh, let's go for Paul." But I think if Paul's able to navigate a few of the early group of votes, he'll be able to really like build a strong team and build a lot of trust, and I can see him winning. So I didn't pick him early just because I'm not sure if I could see some early boot upside with this group in particular, but I think he has a really good head game on his shoulders. I do trust he'll be able to navigate the game, and he's just very likable, and I think he'll do what he needs to do in this kind of game to win.
Paul was, I agree with everything that you said, Scott. I thought Paul was somebody that I thought maybe had a little bit of first boot potential with the things that you're mentioning. But I do think that he has all that live game experience, like you mentioned, which will be great to see how he works that in. But he also mentioned, trying to make it a good TV show, make and crack jokes, which is a person that I wonder how that's going to translate into like the actual game of it. He said he wants to be the nice guy, but willing to stab people in the back, which I think that's awesome. So yeah, I don't think there's many like I don't think there's anybody that you can say basically you can make a case for anybody to, you know, get past a couple rounds and then make a deep run. And I think Paul fits into that mold just as well as anybody else. So Sam, do you have anything on Paul?
Yeah, I'm just excited to watch Paul. I loved his enthusiasm for how excited he was to be indoors. And when he said deep down, I'm a enormous weirdo, I'm just like, same. And I'm just like, yes, I love finding fellow weirdos out in the world. And yeah, and so like, you know, he might be that person that like provides some like comedic relief, and just, you know, be like good to have around that way. From a game perspective, interested to see like how he does and how like he integrates himself into this cast. I think like someone had mentioned, but the thing I'm most excited about for Paul is just I just want to watch Paul on my screen.
Scott?
Paul, first, Arlington. That's right, so close to me. So that's the first note that I made about him. But I think that something that stood out to me about Paul was I had typed like nerdy, but then I switched it to scholarly because it's almost like quirkiness. It's not, I think that if someone is quote unquote nerdy, they get stuck inside themselves, and in a social situation, they might not be able to flourish. And I don't get that from him. I think that there's an awareness to how he is going to come across in a certain way, and he's aware of how he's going to come across, and I think that he can utilize that. I don't see him having a super hard time ingratiating, especially if he's talking one-on-one. He seems like more of a one-on-one than like a crowd pleaser. So I think if he is able to make quick connections one-on-one, I think that he will do well. And I think people will sort of gravitate toward him because he comes across very intelligent.
Yeah, that's a great observation. Edmund?
Yeah, so Scott kind of touched on this, but I think Paul has that awareness. He's able to own his weird, and I think if you're able to own it, if you demand respect for your weird, I think everyone has weirdness to them, right? But I feel like some people try to hide it, and if you own it and you demand that respect that like, this is who I am and you're gonna like it, I think that's how he can kind of integrate himself into the group. I do agree with Scott that I think he's maybe not more so a crowd person, but from my experience with season 1, we didn't really have eliminations right off the first night. So you had time to have those one-on-one conversations to establish those connections. So even if you don't do well in the group setting, hey, maybe I can pull you aside later that night and you can really get to know me personally, more so than how I act in a crowd, which I think, again, people are going to be different based on those two scenarios as well. And yeah, my other thing too is that he's a newbie. I think season 1, a lot of the newbies to Ascendance had a lot of luck getting as far as they did. Not luck, but like being a newbie let them get there. Sorry. I'm not trying to be shady. Y'all know I'm a shady bitch. I'm not trying to be shady, but I'm saying that with the track record of newbies in Ascendance Live season 1, they got very far, so I hope that helps him. And with all these connections that we're talking about, I don't think he has many, if any, and usually that can really help you in a setting like this. So I'm excited to see Paul. He was going to be my pick, but it's okay.
And you are up next. I just want to bring attention to Scott changing the setting, getting better lighting. I love that. For the video purposes, that's awesome. But yes, Edmund, you are up next. So 4 players left.
Okay. I think this is a risky pick, but y'all know I am Team TV. So I'm going with Hot Girl Chris. I think how we talked about Jodie earlier and the fact that Jodie has a big personality, I think Hot Girl Chris is the type that Chris doesn't give a fuck if he's bitchy or if Chris is going to say what Chris wants to say, okay? And that's going to make for good TV, number one, but I think it's good for your positioning and the fact that people know where your head is at. So they might not be as worried about you as other people who are trying to be more sneaky or lie under the radar. If you want to know something, go up to Chris. Chris will tell you how it is. And I think that will get him very far because being straightforward can help you a lot of the times.
Yeah, there was parts of Chris's interview that I don't know why, but the music like on my end just like went really loud and I didn't get to hear a lot of what he was saying. But I was thoroughly entertained throughout besides that point, his entire interview. He came across as very there for the experience, kind of not so like gamey, which I think it's gonna be good for him. And I think people will want to just kind of like chill with Hot Girl Chris, and with the shirt on his head, it's just gonna be fun to watch. I think he's gonna add a lot of personality to the show, basically, which is gonna be fun to follow. But does anybody else have anything? I know Sam.
Duke, I'm sorry, I have to correct you. That's his hair. It's not a shirt.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Hot Girl Chris. I meant hair, of course. Sam, Hot Girl Chris is pretty big into the perception realm, I believe. Do you have any familiarity with Hot Girl Chris?
I don't have any familiarity with him as a player. I just kind of know him as a host. And so, but what I hear from like other people of him as a player, like I've never been in the viewers lounge or like anything like that. So I kind of just have like secondhand information, but it's always positive. It's always like he just seems to have like a lot of people rooting for him, a lot of people in his corner. And like, I can't help but feel like that will translate well to just being in person. I think, a lot of times people, no matter what you're saying, people will always fall back on how they feel. And I think, Chris will bring that energy that like will serve him in this game. And yeah. I guess to specifically answer your question, I feel like I should have more insight into what Chris might be like as a player, but I'm excited to see what I'm part of the Hot Girl fan club, so I'm excited to see what happens.
Aren't we all? Yeah. Scott Earl, you're obviously a part of the Hot Girl fan club, I would imagine too, right?
I do not know this hot girl. I generally am a little too gay to like hot girls, but this hot girl, I'm rooting for Hot Girl Chris. With big personalities, I'm not afraid to have him on my team in general. Like I would have loved Jodalee. I just don't know Hot Girl Chris. I feel like me knowing Jodalee is a big personality, but then like knowing how well they do in a game, I felt more secure. I was a little afraid to know, well, I just don't know anything about Hot Girl Chris. Sorry. That being said, I've seen them in the org community. I feel like they're really well loved. So I feel like that really just bodes well to being able to make connections with different people and be really endearing. And that does go a long way, as Sam said.
Alrighty, we're at that point, Scott. Link, you obviously, if you have anything to chime in with Hot Girl Chris, go ahead. But just know that you have the last wraparound here of the draft. So floor is yours.
So Hot Girl Chris, I was an okay viewer watching Hot Girl Chris play Legacy, the most recent season, but I'm not gonna talk about that game because I really didn't pay that much attention. But I did meet Hot Girl Chris in person randomly at like a Survivor event in DC, and the hair was on. We were at a bar. It was out and about, and I'm just kind of retroactively thinking back on the night, and I was with a bunch of my friends who obviously don't follow orgs. Or I guess maybe not obviously. They don't follow orgs, and Hot Girl Chris was there with the hair on, and thinking back, it was so genuinely on. So none of my friends even asked about it. I was like, oh, this is someone that was like from online Survivor. And they're like, oh, cool, it's nice to meet you. And then there was no questions asked. And I think that that's a testament to Hot Girl Chris. It's just, You're getting what you're getting. There's no questions about it. And I think coming into the game, people will probably gravitate toward that. So I don't foresee Hucker Chris going early, but I don't know if I see a winner for me. I think that people will not want to take Chris to the end because I think that people just like him. So I don't think that's my prediction. I think he'll go deep but not win. And I think that that's a testament to him as a person rather than a player. People are going to see that he'll beat them. But for my last pick, oh gosh, I don't know. Let's see. I think that I'm going to go with... I'm just going to go with Keaton. And I have no reason to pick Keaton over the other two picks other than I just have a note and I just said hair. And so that's why I'm picking Keaton. I liked his hair. And I also wrote that he comes off a little bit nerdy, but similar to what I said about Paul, there's a little bit of charm in that. So it's an endearing nerdiness that I think that I could see him doing well. And he has connections that I've gathered from our conversations here tonight. So I'm picking Keaton for my last pick before we go into the last round.
Yeah, Keaton has played Survivor twice. He, I think, is probably the person with the most Ascendance connections going into this. A lot of people have mentioned Keaton in their intro videos of wanting to work with him, not wanting to see him. So very polarizing character. He did very well in the mini. He improved from his first season. He's played Wesley's game, The Penthouse. So I don't know what the relationship is like, but that's another person that he knows. I just put like Keaton's a wild card for me. I don't know exactly how people are going to take him, but I think he's going to be very present in the episodes. I think you'll kind of hear what Keaton's thinking, and you'll kind of be aware of what Keaton's doing throughout the season, however long he makes it. So going to be interesting to watch Keaton. Does anybody else have anything to touch on Keaton with?
Keaton was somebody like I debated picking in my last go around. And I think, he is just kind of that wild card where he seems to have a lot of insight into, maybe mistakes or things he's done in past games that he wants to correct and learn from. And so, that seems very promising. But I know I met Keaton in a Big Brother game. And he's not shy about it in his video, but like he just loves chaos, and I think it just might get the better of him. And as much as he knows maybe it's not the right time or this won't be good or whatever it is, it might just happen anyway. And that could be potentially his downfall. But, if he can kind of rein it in and, utilize all of those connections to the best of his ability, because he does seem like, whether it's good or bad, people know of him. So just to use that to his advantage. And what was the last thing I was going to say about him? Oh, yeah. So he said, like, when he was asked if there was anybody that he wanted to see playing, he said, like, the more people that know him, the better. And so it sounds like he was already planning on leaning into that. So when he gets into a house and he sees people already willing to work with him or people he knows, he's already in that mindset to be like perfect. Instead of like the flip side of that, like, oh, I really hope nobody knows me, nobody knows my style, and you're kind of like psyching yourself up that way. Like he's already like primed, which I think could be good if he can keep his chaos in check a little or a lot.
Yeah, a little or a lot. Edmund or Scott, do you guys have anything you want to talk about Keaton with?
I didn't really have any strong opinions about Keaton. I just think the main thing I noticed about Keaton in his Meet Me was I kind of felt like he was trying to kind of self-produce in a way. I felt like he was trying to come across a certain way to the camera, and I feel like in a setting like this, you just kind of have to be who you are and own it. I felt like he would kind of say an opinion, but then he would kind of backtrack. And I feel like you need to own your opinion in order to get what you want, instead of being worried about how others perceive you. I've already kind of touched on Keaton's connections previously. Obviously Kennedy said she wanted to work with him. Drew knows them, and like who knows if Drew knows how tight Keaton and Kennedy are, and whether he uses that to his advantage in terms of working with them or forcing a perception in order to get himself further. So I think it'll be interesting to see how these pre-game connections work out. And like y'all said, he does give off very chaotic energy, which can be good, but you need to be able to drop bits and pieces of chaos, not explode a bunch of chaos every minute you can.
Yeah, Keaton like exudes passion. So it's like when someone cares that much, I'd almost feel bad getting rid of them. It's like I want to harness that passion. And in a way, that passion could be a shield, right? Because I feel like Keaton's a big personality in the room and you might want to keep him around. I think Keaton's connections could come in handy, right? If people don't know all about them, Keaton can almost start his own little, like, his group of folks who can spread out and bring other people in. So there's a lot of upside to Keaton. But I think he's still very aware he's like the possible wild card, the one who's going to be the firecracker, bring the drama. So it's just a little scary to take him earlier in the draft. But I do think like self-improvement is something that you talk about in Ghosts from the Past, and I'm still talking about now. It seems like he did well in Penthouse season 4. He said something about making jury. So I think there's definitely some big potential for Keaton. But it was just a little bit too also potential downside to pick earlier for me.
Absolutely. And so we are down to the last two contestants, and how we're going to do this is we are going to, obviously, Scott, Link, you are up next. You have the choice between Marvin and Ryan. And so those two contestants can be chosen twice. So 2 people will choose Marvin, 2 people will choose Ryan. And that's just how we're going to close out the draft here. So Scott, your choice here is between Marvin and Ryan.
I think I'm gonna go with the person that I feel safer picking, and that's gonna be Ryan. I just think in my mind, 9 chances out of 10, I think Ryan will make it farther than Marvin, because I see Marvin, I think I mentioned this for someone, maybe Carson earlier, kind of bookends. I see Marvin like getting in with someone and making it far, or being a lot early and getting out. So I'm going to pick Ryan just to try to scoop up some extra points. And some notes I have on Ryan, I loved the shirt. He made a comment about that too. I made a comment as I was writing Hawaiian-ish type shirt. He then started talking about it. I was like, we're on the same page here, Ryan. I like the shirt. And then I also love the bar. I love trivia, bar trivia. Who doesn't? So a man after my own heart, I'm going to pick Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. Bar trivia is great. I recently went to a Harry Potter themed bar trivia. It was great. We didn't win, but good times were had by all. It's always a great atmosphere. So I don't know if we want to go into what the other 3 people think about, Ryan, because he's still available to be selected. So let's just move right on to Edmund now. Edmund's the next pick, I believe, right? And Edmund, I'll give you the floor on whether you also would like to choose Ryan, and you were swayed by Scott and his description on why he chose him, or if you want to go with Marvin for your own different reasons.
I do have different reasons, which I will say, but I am going to be choosing Marvin. I'll talk on Marvin and then I'll talk on Ryan. I met Marvin, and Marvin very much so knows the person that he is. He has the self-awareness to own it. So I think leaning into kind of that bad bitch persona can get you more respect in a game like this, because he's going to tell it like it is. And if you don't like it, you don't have to. I'm not going to beg for you to like it, which can be risky. It can be good or bad. But I've seen him use his words to get what he wants. So I have high hopes for Marvin. I think his intro video was a little monotone, just very straight to the point, which I don't know how well that might come across as the game goes on, but I still think he'll be able to get in good if he's able to have those personal conversations with people, because that's kind of my own personal experience with him. Ryan, I think out of everybody, I think Ryan was giving me more of an early boot type of energy, which is kind of why I shied away from him. But I do think he has a good energy. I do like the top as well. Also, shout out to Eric's top. I liked Eric's little houndstooth button-up moment. Y'all know I love the fashion, so I pay attention to those things. But yeah, I just think Ryan is there for a good time. We've talked about that with other people where I'm not sure if he has that dedication to fully commit himself to go for the long game. So, I mean, I hope he does. I hope everyone succeeds. That's my pageant answer. But yeah, we'll see how Ryan does.
Yeah, that's so we're at an interesting point here. We are down to, Scott has the next choice. And then Sam has whoever Scott doesn't choose. So, I'll let you guys, if you guys want to talk, and maybe one wants the other one and one wants, kind of talk it out maybe, or Scott, you could just choose and not take Sam's opinion.
I definitely do want one over the other. So
then you go with your gut. You go with your gut.
I'm not. I had this in my mind before all this. Marvin, I've had on my radar for a while. The energy was a bit low in the video, so I didn't know how to perceive it. But there's just look at that cast photo. It's so cute and charming, and just I think there's a level of he might be blunt, like I've been saying, but I think there's still an approachability to it. So I've thought about Marvin as a pick before, but just because I didn't know enough about him or get enough out of him from his video, it didn't feel deep enough to make a pick over others. But now I'm really happy I can get it from my team. Ryan could also go far, but when Ryan was I might say something despite better judgment, I'm you need good judgment the whole game. So if you can't rein yourself in, it's just going to be, that seems a bit more firecrackery in a way that could more easily backfire. So yes, I'm going to choose Marvin for those reasons.
Absolutely. So Sam, you have Ryan to round out the draft. I know you didn't get to talk about either one. Did you have one that you were leaning towards that you thought would do better than the other?
Honestly, I had kind of gone back and forth on the two. I hadn't fully really made up my mind. But yeah, for Ryan, him saying I'm a firecracker. I'll either be in on the action or instigating it. Sometimes that can kind of burn out kind of quickly. But yeah, on the other hand, if Marvin doesn't have anybody in there that he'll click with, or what it is, if he does have more of those quiet standoffish vibes in the game, that could kind of be a detriment as well. Kind of sort of maybe leaning towards Ryan more than Marvin, but just because for people that he said he hopes he's playing are people loyal, trustworthy people to have as potential allies, and he just doesn't want to be working with a snake. He doesn't want to see anybody there who's disloyal or untrustworthy, and it's gonna happen. Everyone's there to play a game, and so I just hope that that's not gonna maybe be a roadblock in his game, that he can kind of navigate around that when that probably does inevitably come up. So maybe that would have tipped the scales a little bit more towards Ryan. But yeah, I think they both have their I can't think of the word I want to say, but there's positives
Strengths
and
and
negatives to both sides, and it's pretty close.
Absolutely. And with that, it rounds out our draft. We have been going for about an hour and 45 here. So I'm just quickly going to run through the teams here. And if you guys have final thoughts, go ahead and get them out. So Scott Link, you have Jodalee, Zoe, Thomas, Keaton, and Ryan. Edmund has Erica, Christopher, Wesley, Hot Girl Chris, so 2 Chris's, and Marvin, Scott Earl, Taisha, Drew, Carson, Paul, and Marvin. And then Sam, you have Melissa, Eric, Jake, Kennedy, and Ryan. Did I get that correct? Hopefully I got that right. Sure.
Duke, who do you
What's
think
up?
has the strongest team after this draft?
Well,
Ooh.
I do not want to give away too much of my thoughts because I actually am doing a 1v1 draft versus somebody tomorrow night. And I can't tell you my secrets. Actually, I'll just tell you who I think has the best team right now. Looking at it, I'm going to go with the returning person to the podcast. I'm going to go with Scott Earl. I really like his choice. He has a couple of the top people that I liked. That's just off the bat, though. We have to see how things shape out, of course. But again, I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. I hope that we can talk, in the future on some of these episodes, have you guys on for a little one-on-one recaps. But yeah, other than that, do you guys have any final thoughts to round this out?
I have a team name.
Oh my goodness. Let me put that in right now for you.
All right. My team name is Sugar and Spice and Everything ... else. Because I feel like there's all kinds of stuff in my team.
All right, you're gonna message me that because that was long and I didn't catch all of it. But any other team names? I know Edmund, you had mentioned something at the top.
My team is full of good time gals. But Sam, you probably don't know this, but my Ascendance picture from season 1, I'm wearing a t-shirt that says Sugar and Spice.
Oh,
Yes. So it's all connecting.
wow.
Nice.
Alliance in the draft here.
Scott's versus Sugar and Spice.
All right, guys. Well, that was wonderful.
I wanted to publicly apologize to my team because I always do so bad in drafts. So if you're on my team, it's not looking good.
Luckily, they filmed already.
The confidence, Scott. Come on, you gotta hype your team up, brother. Yes, thank you guys so much. I'm gonna stop the recording here. Lost at Sea, definitely tune in. We'll have all these guys on throughout the season to talk about it. So thanks again, and thanks for watching if you did.